There's one side, which is people who have never offshored before, or they've sort of thought about it, but they've never really figured out how to start. And there's other clients that have offshored and either it didn't work or it's working okay, but they're looking to improve it. So there's these two sort of buckets. And really both of them is about building trust and making sure that they understand your process through and through. You're very transparent with them upfront, how long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost, what the talent level is going to be, what their backgrounds are going to be. And I think that's really important for both sides of it, to really lay it out on the table of like, hey, South Africa is very good at these things, not good at these things. South Africa is not the cheapest market if you're going to offshore. If you're going to offshore, you should go to Pakistan, India, Philippines if you're looking for the cheapest talent.
Welcome to Offshore to Profits. I have a fantastic guest here, Dan. Dan, do you mind introducing yourself? And then we're going to set the premise of our conversation of the week.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the intro, Jamie. Thanks for having me on. I'm Dan Seligman. I'm based here in Toronto, Canada, and I run an offshore staffing agency. We work with Canadian American companies and we help them run the recruiting process, hire and staff amazing people outside of North America. But we do it specifically for one country and one country only, which is South Africa. So that is our focus and effort, and helping amazing South Africans work for amazing North American businesses. And it's a win-win relationship. North Americans get cheap, smart people. South Africans get access to great jobs that they didn't have access to before. And we're the ones who try to put those pieces together.
This is fantastic because you have two guys, two Canadians, live 20, 30 miles from each other, who see the world in the exact same light. So, Dan, I'll ask you to tell your story, but I'll set the stage. I chose Bangladesh, or as they pronounce it, Bangladesh, specifically because my business partner and chief operating officer there in Bangladesh was our CMO and built an entire marketing department for my company, Sales for Life and Pipeline Signals. And we had talent doing everything from copywriting, graphic design, videography, campaign design via email, social media posting. And then they started with digital prospecting. So prospecting through my LinkedIn on behalf of me, as I had reach and reputation to open up doors. And Bangladesh offered, number one, I have a partner who can be there as the delivery operator. And number two, it provides incredible labor arbitrage with incredible talent. I'd love to hear your founder story. Start from the beginning. How did you get into this? Why South Africa? And as well, it appears that you're also focusing on sales and marketing as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think to your point, we live very close to each other. We're both focusing on different markets and running our own businesses. I think it just proves that talent is truly global. Talent can be in any country, can have any background, and provide tons of value for businesses in North America and Europe, wherever they are in the world. So it's an exciting time that globalization of talent is becoming mainstays. But to give a little bit of context to our business and why South Africa, it actually falls on a personal experience of mine. My background is in sales, specifically B2B SaaS sales, sort of entry-level sales all the way up to the executive suite. And most of the time it was in VC-backed companies. I had a couple companies that had successful exits and grew very well. I had a couple companies I worked for that turned into fairy dust. But that's part of the VC world. But most recently, I was an exec at a bootstrapped business here in Toronto. Never raised a dime, grew very quickly, and was very successful. And for us to be able to grow strategically over time and to grow profitably, we really leaned into hiring people outside of North America. We had a team in Canada. We had people in Brazil, Spain, Romania, Pakistan. We had people everywhere. And it proved to me as an executive that this is the way of the future. For companies to grow profitably, for companies to expand, we have to and we should take advantage of international talent. So that was my first exposure to it. So I did that for 3 years and saw it firsthand as an exec in this company. So I knew the value of providing that service and helping clients and companies in North America do it. But also through my experiences, I figured out the pain points. It's very time consuming. It's confusing to figure out foreign employment laws and taxes and payroll and all that kind of stuff. But for me in particular, there was two issues or problems that I ran into that I wanted to go solve. And for me, the two of those problems were, one, every talent pool that we used happened to have some sort of language barrier. All the countries we were sourcing from spoke another language, so English was their second language. And sometimes it created friction internally, and then sometimes it also created friction externally. So I wanted to go solve for that. And then the second problem I had is, like, a lot of the talent was really, really good at certain things, but I found a lot of the talent lacked critical thinking skills and like focus on business acumen. And that's where I wanted to see, like, hey, how can I find talent that is native English speakers, has a business mind, has critical thinking skills. And originally when I started the business, I had recruiters all around the world sourcing talent from 10 different countries. And it worked-ish, but I quickly realized every time we sourced talent from one country, the clients were very happy and they only wanted to interview and hire those people. So we pivoted the business. We went all in on that country, and the country happens to be South Africa. And for me, in hindsight, looking back on it, it makes a ton of sense. South African, one, native English speakers, two, highly educated. 7 of the top 10 universities in Africa are in South Africa, and is a business hub of Africa. Joburg and Cape Town have some of the biggest corporations in Africa and the UK that operate out of there. So it's a very business-oriented country. Unfortunately, the economy is not very strong. The rand, which is the local currency, fluctuates a ton. So a lot of these people don't have jobs or have very poor jobs, and they're looking for new opportunities, other job opportunities outside of their borders. And that's where we come in and try to help them find great jobs working for North American companies. And the time zones work really well. The language barrier doesn't exist. So we actually have a facility in Joburg where we set everyone up in our office with a desk, a laptop, monitor, headset. We take care of the employment contract, paperwork, payroll, and then we have staff in the office who provide our clients with timesheets and help with any IT issues and stuff like that. But every client in our office or every employee in our office works for a different client around the world.
That's fantastic. So you have a very similar done-for-you service. Customer clicks a button, buys talent. Now they don't have to worry about, to your point, the CapEx and the OpEx. So I don't have to worry about computers and VPNs and software. At the same time, I don't have to worry about the OpEx and also the litigious and legal issues of employment. What is your area of concentration and focus? Is it verticalized? Is it on a certain ICP and persona, as in you serve, whether it's accountants or you serve virtual assistants, or what is that area of concentration?
Yeah, for sure. It's a good question. So for us, South Africa is world class and very good at certain roles and responsibilities, and not world class at others. And we're very transparent about that. If you came to me saying I need 3 machine learning engineers, I would say don't go to South Africa. I would say go to Eastern Europe or India or something like that if you're looking for offshore talent. But with that being said, South Africa is a country of 60 million people, extremely high education rate. So the talent is very broad. So for us, we focus on, which are broad spectrums, is we focus on finance, marketing, sales, and admin support. So executive assistants and virtual assistants. So it covers a broad range of roles.
That's
but it's
fantastic.
focusing on the business side because that's where we know the talent can deliver. We have accountants who worked at Ernst & Young and PwC. We have marketing companies or support people who've worked at Amazon. So these people are working for big businesses and big corporations. So the talent for those roles is incredible. Developers and engineering talent, truthfully, is better in other countries, but that's where our focus and niche is.
This is fantastic. So we both have, and we talked about this offline, sales is near and dear to our heart. And so we both focus on delivering outcomes, a done-for-you service in the sales world. You and I talked about offline how outbound is not dead. You and I perhaps tackle it from different product sets. But talk to me about how you're seeing, A, outbound is not dead. B, because of the labor arbitrage that you're creating, because you're changing cost of customer acquisition and payback period, how what deemed to be dead can create a whole new level of opportunity by using outsourced or offshore talent to be able to serve in the sales community.
Yeah, it's a great point. And as you said, near and dear to both of our hearts. And the really exciting part about this is the math changes. The good and bad thing about sales is a very easy ROI calculator. is this is how much we pay our person to do sales. Here's how much they're producing. If they're positive, then they're a good person to have in the company and they're generating revenue for the business. If they're negative, then it's very clear and cut and dry, black and white, that this person is not delivering and not helping the business grow. And usually those are based off American and US salary, which is a higher bar for them to hit in terms of sales to become profitable. When you go offshore, you're cutting these costs in half and set by 70%, 80%, depends what it is. And the math changes now. Previously, with an outbound sales rep or SDRs or BDRs or account executives, you would have to get them to book 20 meetings a month or close 100,000 in revenue. Now, if you're cutting your salary costs in half, guess what? Your quotas can be cut in half as well. But if you can get them to the production level of a regular account executive, so if a North American account executive is trying to close 100K in the US to make them profitable, but now you have an opportunity to hire someone from South Africa who can still do 100K, but you can pay them 70% less, then the math for your business has changed and you'll be able to scale a lot better. And with the transition sort of away from the VC grow at all cost model and moving into profitability is cool, this is a necessity for businesses to change their math around profitability of employees. And when you're paying your employees 70% less, 50% less, that is a huge leverage point for these businesses to grow. And the nice part about it is, yes, you're paying them 70% less than North American employees, but in all the cases for us, the South African employees are actually making 20, 30% more than their current roles or previous roles that they were working for other South African companies. So the employees are making more money, the clients are saving a ton of money, and everybody's happy. And these people are in this sort of perfect relationship.
This is fantastic. I wrote an article in February of 2023 as I was in Cape Town, South Africa, enabling a customer of ours, Retail Next. And I met their entire BDR team was in Cape Town. And I've seen BDR teams in every other pocket of the world, but this was new to me. And I was helping them with territory development. I was helping them with quota compensation plans, and basically reverse engineering from sales outcomes of the goals that they wanted to achieve all the way down to actions and activities. And exactly what Dan was talking about, the Rand had collapsed and it allowed a BDR to produce a fraction of the outcomes of a North American. Yet the profitability of the customer, the cost of customer acquisition, the payback period was better than if you hired a North American. And it comes back to the reason that Aaron Ross's predictable revenue was created 15 plus years ago in Salesforce. At that time, a junior BDR was being paid $35,000, $40,000 a year, and an account executive maybe $100,000. There was such a disparity in the labor cost that it made sense to bifurcate and separate the act of prospecting from the act of deal closing.
Yeah.
But now in North America, those worlds have blended so closely in labor arbitrage. Well, there is no labor arbitrage, that the financial model doesn't make sense anymore. Dan, areas of concentration. Does your team in South Africa, are they placing calls? Are they conducting email prospecting, LinkedIn prospecting? What is the medium of communication that's been most effective for you for outbound?
Yeah, for sure. So this is very client specific because everyone has different business models and different approaches. But from our perspective, the best way that we see production is really the multi-channel approach, which has been spoken about over and over and over again, but is the tried and true method to be able to connect with businesses and be productive at top of funnel SDR, BDR level, which is through email, LinkedIn outreach, Twitter outreach, cold calling. It's really a combination of building brand awareness and providing value. But to your point before about outbound is not dead, previously when I started my career in SaaS sales, it was early 2000s. And we used to mail merge people and send 1,000 emails at a time. And that was our strategy, and just get it out there and sort of spray and pray. Nowadays, the game has changed, and it's really about providing extreme customization to the right buyer at the right time. And the quicker you can identify that and you can build that relationship and provide true value, the better results you're going to get for outbound. And up until now, a good reply rate is, or an average reply rate is 2 to 3%, open rates 30%, something along that. So if you can take that level of customization, multi-threading to be able to get the replies to call it 6%, you're not just increasing your reply rates by 4%, you're tripling your production. Because if you're doing 2 and now you're doing 6, you just tripled your production on an outbound perspective. So we have to be realistic that you're never going to get a 50% reply rate or 90% reply rate. But if you can be extremely strategic with your outreach, your multi-threading, and your targeting, outbound is definitely not dead. And you can get 6, 10, 12% reply rates and be able to book significant demos at scale with qualified buyers that are going to be able to convert. And this is very different from industry to industry. And from my perspective, and I'm sure you do the same thing, is my brain is in sales. So when we work with clients, yeah, we help you find talent, we help you onboard talent, and they're your employee and help you support. But we're there on the strategic side as well, of like, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, what's your stack today? Let's see if we can help you become more productive, because this is a partnership. We don't want to find you 5 SDRs in South Africa and then there's no process or opportunity or strategy to make them successful, because that's not good for our client, that's not good for our employees, and it's not good for us. We want to help them put strategies in place that's going to be successful for the long term, help them book a ton of demos, help them book a ton of deals, because it's a win-win-win. The clients make more money, the employees stay on board, and hopefully the company grows and they hire more people through us. So we want to be able to provide them the tools to be able to grow and benefit all 3 people involved.
2-part question. What has been your personal biggest learning along this journey of now running an outsourcing offshoring business? And number 2, what has been the biggest learning surprise for the customer's perspective?
Yeah, it's a good question. And from the customer's perspective, I guess to address that first, with my customers, and maybe you have the same situation, there's sort of 2 clear buckets of customers. There's one side, which is people who have never offshored before, they've sort of thought about it, but they've never really figured out how to start. And there's other clients that have offshored and either it didn't work or it's working okay, but they're looking to improve it. So there's these 2 sort of buckets. And really both of them is about building trust and making sure that they understand your process through and through. You're very transparent with them upfront, how long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost, what the talent level is going to be, what their backgrounds are going to be. And I think that's really important for both sides of it, to really lay it out on the table of like, hey, South Africa is very good at these things, not good at these things. South Africa is not the cheapest market if you're going to offshore. If you're going to offshore, you should go to Pakistan, India, Philippines if you're looking for the cheapest talent. But this is what we provide, this is how we provide, and this is what you can expect from it. So I think that's really important on like the client side. And my learning is really about laying your cards on the table from day one. Really important to get everything out there, make sure that everyone's on the same page. 1, to be transparent, but 2, to address any concerns that people have, because it is a trust exercise. And they will never trust you unless you put your cards on the table. And then you'll very quickly realize if this is going to be a good or bad relationship, depending on how they react, ask questions, and work for you for there. No reason to hold your cards till the end. So that's the sort of learning on that side. And then I forget the other side that you asked about learnings, but that was the client side.
Well, the learning from your perspective, just the entrepreneur in you, the founder. What did you learn along this journey? Maybe you didn't expect it.
Yeah, for sure. So from my personal side, I've been an employee my whole life. I've always dreamed of starting a business. And truthfully, for me, it's always been this huge intimidating factor around business. Like, oh, these big CEOs, they're running this great business. And really, what I've realized early on is business is not as intimidating as you think it is. Figuring out a service that you can provide that people see value in, make sure that you can provide that service for more than it costs you to create. And if you can do that at scale and you can do that for a long period of time, you're going to be successful. And I think the general public, or at least myself, had this perception of business that you needed to hire a lawyer to incorporate. You needed to have a bookkeeper to run your books. You have to have a payroll person to run your payroll. I'm running everything right now, and I have some support here and there, but those things happen in time and you figure it out as you go. Nothing is ever fully understood or fully cooked. You just figure it out as you proceed. And it's really just a learning curve, and it's not as complicated or sophisticated as I perceived it as an outsider. But there are hiccups and there are speed bumps that come along the way that you'll have to deal with. But I'm not going to be the first to deal with those hiccups and speed bumps. I'm sure you've dealt with them as well. And every business owner in the entire world is going to deal with these, and everyone gets on and survives. So it's all part of the journey and figuring it out. And there's a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows, but at the end of the day, being your own boss and building something that you're proud of is worth it.
This is fantastic. How does the audience get a hold of you if they have any questions, they want to learn more about your business? What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, they can reach me via email, dan@hirewithtalently.com, or they can connect with me on LinkedIn. On there all the time, Daniel Seligman from Talently. So feel free to reach out and connect. And yeah, if anyone wants to talk about offshore hiring, wants to source some people, or even just talk sales and strategy, I'm always open to connect. It's great to speak to other founders and leaders to see how we can support each other.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show.